Okay. Calling to order the July meeting of the Capital Program Committee of the MTA. Um, can we hear from our public speakers?
Mr. Chair, we have 8 members of the public registered to speak. As a reminder, we ask that all public speakers adhere to the MTA's rules of conduct and decorum. I would also like to remind our public speakers that in the interest of time and fairness to all speakers, we limit everyone to 2 minutes. Please be aware there will be a warning beep to remind you that you have 30 seconds to complete your remarks. Our first speaker is Jack Connors, followed by Omar Vera.
Good afternoon. I'm Jack Connors, Research and Communications Associate at the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee to the MTA PCAC. Riders have a lot to celebrate this summer. 12 subway stations across the 5 boroughs selected to become accessible, joining new elevators at the 95th Street R Station in Bay Ridge. The best part is that riders have had a say in choosing the next slate of accessible stations. We're looking forward to the release of the list of the remaining stations as well. New R211s on the G and B trains mean new rolling stock is rolling through all 5 boroughs, not to mention 300 new M9As on order for LIRR and Metro North riders. The CBTC installation and capital commitments updates show how far we've come and also what's next. They also show what happens when there is a delay of any kind, along with the burgeoning effects of tariffs. So we're glad to see that there are still plans to complete $9.1 billion in projects this year. It's great to see the fruits of 2 fully funded MTA capital plans paying off, thanks to Governor Hochul and the legislature. That wouldn't be possible without congestion relief, which is benefiting tri-state area commuters, whether they drive or take transit, as 90% of central business district-bound commuters do. This nation-leading program is speeding up commutes, cutting down on truck traffic, upgrading our transit, improving street safety, and clearing the air, which has never been more important given all the hot air coming from Washington. The IBX is moving ahead too, and that's particularly exciting for New Yorkers in Brooklyn and Queens who want to have a travel option into Manhattan without needing to go into Manhattan. The IBX can also be a catalyst for TOD. A recent Building Congress report found that rezoning land along the IBX would create more than 100,000 new homes. It's a win-win for addressing our housing crisis and making it legal for riders to live near the transit they depend on. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Omar Vera, followed by Joseph Morales.
Good afternoon, CPOC committee. Greetings. Starters, great job on finally having the R211s not just on the G, but also on the B. The G and the B lines, like many of which are based out of Coney Island, desperately need this new equipment to replace the R46 and some R68s been around since the 70s and 80s. So I approve of that. And then second, I realized that now there are a lot more Omni vending machines that have replaced the MetroCard vending machines. Like and then because you mentioned by the end of the year they'll stop selling MetroCards altogether. But here's what we do. Here's what we need to do, though. Is my opinion that we should have at least some unlimited card options, like for those who don't necessarily like use paper ride a lot. Even though you've done like the Omni fare cap for paper ride riders, there still needs to be at least one form of a limited card just to keep as a relic from the MetroCard, but in a more modern period. And last but not least, I'd like to also thank all of you for Disability Pride Month to make more subway stations accessible. I saw the Bay Ridge 95th Street station, like the previous speaker mentioned, was already done. And like I said, hopefully we have more stations accessible to at least the point where we have all 95% by 2055. Thanks.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jason Anthony, followed by Christopher Grafe.
Good afternoon, Jano, Jamie, and the rest of the board. Jason Anthony, the Transit Guru. We have received a lot of good news this summer, from the R211s being on the BNG, CBTC on 8th Avenue, soon to be on the 6th Avenue. A lot of elevators being installed and being 12 new elevators being soon to be installed in the next 4 years. That's a lot of, let's say, good news to my ears. That's what this MTA is about. Also, I want to thank Jano Lieber. Why Jano? Because Jano, I know Jano since he was in the position that Jamie is in now. And Jano is a special person to me because what I know Jano. When Jano says something, he keeps his word, and not like New Jersey Transit that when they do something, they break promises. And Jano, I want to say to you and Jamie, thank you for all the hard work that you guys do, not for the people with disabilities, but for the thousands and millions of thousands of people that use the MTA every single day. Keep doing the good work that you guys are doing every single day.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Christopher Greif, followed by Joseph Morales.
Good afternoon. No, I'm not going to say what he just said. Just want to make that clear. First of all, happy 8835 as Carmel War is next door and we celebrate Disability Pride Month. And I will say this, as an advocate, and which has also been an advocate for 32 years, what we see for the last 6 years, more accessible stations, updating our buses, updating our stations that need to be updated, clean, and lights. But very importantly, our reduced fare services, customer service centers adding, which I'm very glad to see. I hope to see in the future that the reduced fare vehicles will get updated with new buses because, as you know, they have the antique legends. So I hope in the future we can continue updating their buses and vans to make it more accessible, more easier access for them because not everyone can go up in the air like that and try to reach, but something in the future. With the accessibility, what I'm seeing, and I hope to see more, is updating our signal systems to make our trains go even faster and safely, because I know I've been on the 7 and the L. They run perfect. And I can say, even my cousin Ann will say, wow, this train really moves. She loves the trains. She loves tapping her Omni card, but a lot of people are still going to ask me in the future. We still need a 30-day pass or more update options for seniors and people with disability because the low-income families and people who have SSI or SSDI always needs to budget their money to make it easy. So I hope in the near future we can continue working on that. But to everyone in here, happy 8835, and as we celebrate Disability Pride Month 10th year anniversary, let's enjoy the celebration and accomplish what we all be doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Joseph Morales, followed by Maddie Bucky's Highland.
Mr. Morales, did you complete your first year of college? Yes, I have. Okay. I'll take a look at your transcript, see if you're ready for hiring by the MTA, okay? All right, you go.
Okay, good morning, everyone. As Jano alluded to, my name is Joseph Morales, and I am a rising sophomore at Manhattan University. As I saw in the Bridges and Tunnels Committee book, collisions are down across facilities in recent months. That's really good. During the roadway and ramp rehabilitation project at the Verrazano Narrows Bridge, new traffic patterns should be as safe and clear as possible so that these trends could continue. I think, yeah. Also, I noticed on page 14 of the Capital Program Committee book that equipping the R211 with CBTC equipment is progressing as part of the R211 delivery process. For all future rolling stock contracts, CBTC equipment should be in cars automatically as CBTC projects are progressing rapidly throughout the system, as multiple speakers have mentioned already. Lastly, I also saw in the lessons learned section for CBTC projects that it involves shifting more responsibility to contractors for more work earlier on. Generally speaking, in the history of capital projects I've heard be discussed here, that has been a successful move. And while it should help us save time and money, we should still look to save through other means, since this means our upfront costs could be higher. And we've done that through bundling and different tactics before. So that being said, thank you for your time this month.
Welcome back, sir.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Maddie Bucky's Highland, followed by Charlton D'Souza.
Thank you, madam, and good afternoon, folks. My name is Matty Bucky's Highland, and happy 8835, folks. And I just want to say we had made improvements throughout this new. As you most certainly know, this is not the 25th MTA where you had a chairman and an executive director, but this is the new MTA, and we have a chairman and a CEO that is willing to work hard for accessibility projects. Although I wish we had a chair and CEO split. But anyway, it's good to see that there are accessible projects around, especially on the Babylon line, which is my home line. I can get off at Lindenhurst, for example, and go to the Lutheran Church where Pastor Mark Herbst is, and see what's going on, and pray with him. So with that being said, folks, please have a great summer, have a great August, and hopefully see you all in September. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Charlton D'Souza, followed by Alita Dupree.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Charlton D'Souza. I'm the president of Passengers United. So, Mr. Chairman, my comments are going to relate to the bus command center. So, with the Queens bus redesign, people have to now walk to another bus stop because the other bus stop where they used to board has been eliminated. And then they're waiting 40 minutes only to see 3 buses together, bus bunching. What is going on in the bus command center? Why is there so much bus bunching? And it even gets worse when you have a lot of canceled bus trips because you have buses on the defect line because they don't have air conditioning or they have roach infestations. We are seeing this throughout Queens, and it is angering people. On top of the Queens bus redesign, that you have to deal with buses bunching. So, Mr. Chairman, I beg you, you need to look into this because the anger level in Queens, and I heard everyone speaking at the transit committee meeting, everyone's all happy. They have not seen what I've seen. Angry passengers are angry with DOT because they did not change the signs in time. Bus drivers are even confused because there are bus stops that are no longer bus stops. We have bus stops in driveways. This is why at the last meeting I got angry. And I wanted you all to see the same anger that I had to see from the passengers that I had to deal with. And with the hot heat that's happening today and tomorrow, you guys need to issue an advisory. And please tell your bus drivers not to bypass passengers. If they're waiting for the light and they see passengers getting off a connecting bus, do not go in full speed and make them wait 20 or 30 minutes for the next bus, because that's what's happening with the Queens bus redesign. You guys need to do a better job. But again, we will be out protesting, we will be out letters, and Mr. Chairman, you need to meet with us. You need to have your customer service team meet with us. That's all I'm going to say. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you. Our final speaker is Alita Dupree.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Daniel Lieber and members. Alita Dupree, for the record, she and her with Team Folds. Hope you can see and hear me all right. I'm broadcasting from Oakland. Wish I could be with you, but San Francisco Jewish Film Festival is going on. This report is very heavy on CBTC, and that's very near and dear to me. I hope you can see the picture of me with the G train in the background. So I really enjoyed my G train ride. I'm not seeing the clock, so please remind me when it gets close. I used the G train in April more than I had in the previous 40 years. But CBTC is very important, and I'm encouraged at the progress that we're doing. Most of this is centered around what you call the independent subway lines, 6th and 8th Avenues, which are lines that I used a lot in my growing up. And I'm looking forward to this coming into its fullness on these lines as we take CBTC from being something small to something big that works. And they're doing this at BART. It's still mostly in the planning stages. I have one of these trucks going by me. Not easy being in Oakland. But I see the report is positive, and I think we're going to get this work done. Okay, I think I got 30 seconds. All right. And we're going to get it done right because I am experiencing the benefits of CBTC. I look forward to your presentations that will continue to uphold the idea of the subway being the system that is legendary and stately. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That concludes the public comment section.
Thank you, Ms. Irvin, and thank you to the members of the public who spoke. I'm going to skip over June committee meetings so that we have a quorum for minutes and come back on that. Mr. Torres Springer, any changes to the work plan?
No changes, Chair.
Okay, and your report, sir.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members of the committee. Happy to give an update before turning to signals and train control here. We're not going to get tired of showing this image of, this is actually phase 2 of the replacement of Park Avenue Viaduct. This is north of 125th Street. Additional work that the board authorized last summer, which has proceeded very quickly. Important milestones. Actually, this weekend was the 5th bridge replacement outage. We call them BROS for short, of the year, and the 15th overall. The team set a record this weekend with 12 separate bridges installed and in service on time for Monday morning Metro North rush. For the project overall, we've now installed 780 feet of track, replaced the bridges, and we're now past the halfway point for the total number of bridges. And again, we're now working on phase 1 to the south, phase 2 to the north at the same time and getting an enormous amount of work done, which is what we set out to do here when we authorized this additional work and created this savings by doing so to do this critical work. Our ADA program continues to deliver results. We celebrated Bay Ridge 95th Street station becoming ADA accessible. It's the 3rd one this year. And we've got 2 more planned for the summer and a number more to come this year. But also we're ensuring our existing elevators are in a state of good repair. We've talked about this. The 2020 to 2024 plan is basically able to ensure that the elevators and escalators get to a state of good repair. And while this means that in some cases we're taking units out of service to replace them, it's the way that we extend the life and create new life for new units in the system. So Stations Business Unit, in the midst of an ambitious elevator replacement program, you can see that we're happy to see 66th Street, Lincoln Center, and Euclid Avenue replacement elevators go into service this month. And we're going to add even more accessible stations to the system in the coming years, thanks now to the fully funded 25 to 29 capital plan. Last week, we announced an additional 12 of the more than 60 stations that are featured in that plan. You can see the list here, and many of these stations will be done as part of line segment bundles, which will help us to bend the cost curve and get our work done even faster, increasing that 4 to 5 times the pace of any prior ADA work that we're getting done. All these better, faster, cheaper efficiencies. A timely example is the work that we're doing for Metro North. The 88 improvements at Woodlawn, Williamsbridge, and Botanical Garden are being done with innovations that allow service to continue throughout the duration of the project. At these stations, as you can see, we've installed inter-track barriers. This actually is similar to what we're using to get the work done on Park Avenue Viaduct. So those barriers are between the out-of-service track and the adjacent tracks that remain in service, which means we can avoid having our construction teams having to stop work as each train passes and make precious work hours more effective. Each of these stations, as you see on the right, will be getting well, you don't see it on the right. They'll be getting brand new platforms, and what you can see on the right are temporary platforms that were installed earlier this month, which will allow for the existing platforms at each station to be removed and replaced instead of having to close the station and affect customers. This approach, it sounds very simple and intuitive and obvious, but it's a new approach for us in the way we're getting things done without disrupting service, and we think it's really going to pay off for the railroads in this plan. Speaking of those platforms, on the subway system, the governor announced last week that we've now installed protective platform edge barriers at 56 subway stations across the system. It's halfway through the year. It puts us on track to deliver on Governor Hochul's State of the State commitment to install barriers at more than 100 subway stations in 2025. This is one of many safety-related interventions that C&D and New York City Transit are working together on, and we're especially proud to partner here with Transit on the installation of these barriers. This is using the MTA's in-house workforce, which is an efficiency tool that we're looking to use more in the new capital plan. Today at Finance Committee, the board will consider a designation from our transit-oriented development team for Jonathan Rose Companies to build 265 housing units on the 4.5-acre Metro North-owned lot at Beacon Station on the Hudson Line. This is a project very exciting. It was energized by the governor's Executive Order 30, which directed us to position MTA-owned assets for housing development, and it makes use for the first time of funding appropriated by the legislature and the governor last year that will fund replacement of commuter parking on a one-to-one basis as part of the project. So this is an existing parking lot. There will be a commuter parking lot. You can see it in the foreground, constructed with dollars that are coming from state appropriation, and then that enables us to build this transit-oriented development project adjacent to it. It's a real win for Metro North riders and a win for housing in the region. This month, of course, we had another incident of heavy rainfall that overwhelmed the city's stormwater management system and disrupted subway and Metro North service. You can see that the storm had a higher peak intensity than all recent storms other than Ida. And we saw some similar effects to those storms in a number of stations on the west side of Manhattan and in Mott Haven Yard, which services all Metro North trains. Of course, this is the new normal. In fact, there's a forecast by the city for storms later this week that may reach over 2 inches per hour of rainfall again. There are going to be impacts because our infrastructure in the city and the region are not sized to handle these types of storms, particularly the city's stormwater infrastructure. There was some good news here. Despite some station flooding, we saw interventions that C&D and New York City Transit have made, in some cases in cooperation with the city's Department of Environmental Protection, that were working. These are what we call the tactical interventions. For example, Dyckman Street on the 8th Avenue line had severe impacts during Ida in September 2021. We installed new runoff protections at this station. And, decline a little call here. And worked with DEP to install new catch basins in the adjacent intersections. So there were no severe impacts reported at this location during the July 14th storm. So there's a lot of cases where we just have to get these tactical improvements done. However, several other stations on the west side of Manhattan were impacted on July 14th. The runoff from subway vents at 34th Street Penn Station, for example. So we know that what we're doing is not enough. It's why we're not waiting around to act at the MTA. We have $700 million in the new capital plan to improve our pump systems and to make subway stations more resilient in the event of future storms by protecting them from stormwater runoff that can't be handled by the city's system. And we're right now investing $100 million in more than 100 stations in our current plan, top steps, pumping capacity, new sewer connections. There's a lot of work going on at the MTA, but the MTA cannot act on its own. The stations are flooding because the neighborhoods are flooding. So we continue to talk to the city, which is DEP and DOT in particular, about how they can manage stormwater more effectively to keep it out of those neighborhoods and out of our system. We restarted a joint MTA city task force on this issue just this morning. I had a call along with the staff at C&D with the most senior deputy commissioners at both DOT and DEP to get things going and begin to get into specifics of how they can intervene. And again, we're working with them at this tactical level, but what we need is long-term investment in the city's stormwater system. And we'll be calling for that in more detail as this work continues and coming into the fall. So that's the stormwater update. Today, we're hearing from Signals and Train Control, our business unit. We're glad that there is broad recognition that our signal technology, which is aging, was cutting edge when it was built 100 years ago, is in dire need of replacement. And we're moving at a much faster pace through delivery innovation. As you'll see, we'll have more than 100 miles of the system funded for replacement through congestion relief funding and the 25 to 29 plan, including the largest line we've attacked so far, the Fulton and Liberty line, which is the A and the C out to Ozone Park in Brooklyn, and the 6th Avenue 63rd line, which will connect the new signals on Queens Boulevard West to new signals on the Culver line and on actually a piece of the Crosstown line. Resignaling whole sections of the system can be disruptive, and we will talk about how we're minimizing this disruption even as we make sure we're perfecting new technology before we roll it out to our riders. We're particularly going to focus on that today. The Crosstown, or G line, is a great example of this. We're sharing news today that while all of the physical work to outfit the G train is going smoothly and is on time, a new technology that we need to adopt for CBTC across all of our subway lines, not just for the G train, but starting with the G train. It's a 5G radio that will be on subway cars to replace obsolete radio equipment. That will take longer than the work that we're doing on the G itself. So putting CBTC into full operation on the G line overall will take longer than anticipated. But there are no additional disruptions to riders associated with this. We'll be starting testing and commissioning by the end of next year. And signal modernization really means comprehensive renewal of the line, and riders are seeing those benefits already. A great deal of track and equipment like interlockings and switches have already been replaced, which makes for a smoother ride. We're able to deep clean most of the stations on the G during the shutdown last summer, so their condition is much improved for our riders. We're running new R211 trains on the G train, including the open gangway model, and we expect to soon light up cell service in the tunnels along the G. That work is basically done on our side. We need the cell carriers to come in and equip things. We're in great shape with AT&T and T-Mobile, hoping that Verizon chooses to join in and also service their customers on this. But we're ready to go with cell service on the G train very soon. And all of these benefits are accruing to riders, even as we continue to work on the signaling, the final signaling part of that. And so with that, I want to ask Mark Roche, who runs our delivery department, and Gregoire Soulmont, who's the head of our Signals and Train Control business unit, to walk the board through how we're innovating to deliver new signals better, faster, and cheaper, and the status of current and future projects. And then Jessica Matthew, who runs our asset planning group, will give you a look ahead to the work coming in the next capital plan.
Thanks. Thank you, Jamie. Let's see if I can get this to move. There we go. So just a little start off with to remind everybody what signaling is and signal modernization. So we're just going to compare the legacy system and the new CBTC system. So in the legacy system, signals are really a series of blocks along the line. They're about 1,000 foot long, and the electrical signals in the blocks can tell us when a train is in that block. And that delivers an electrical signal to lights that operators use. What it doesn't tell us is exactly where that train is in a block. It can be anywhere in that 1,000 feet. It can be just coming in or going out. So to keep the system safe, we space the trains far apart. We keep a buffer of blocks between where the train is located. That means we can't bring our trains closer together, and it limits the service that we can provide. But with CBTC, we're not relying on the block and the electrical signals. We're relying on the communications between the trains. the trains directly talk to each other, or as my colleague in my light, who's more precise, will indirectly talk to each other through the zone controllers. Their ability to know the speed of the train ahead, the position of the train behind, how fast they're going, how long it will take them to stop, allows us to be clever and bring our trains much closer together. Hence, we get a much, much better service. Bear in mind that the fundamental core of CBTC is the communication systems. People keep on telling me it's a computer, C is for computer. It's not, it's for communications. And as Jamie's already mentioned, the functioning of the communication system is the vital part of the system. So, why do we want modernization? Well, here's a pretty good example of an underground signal tower. 1930s, I think someone said the Gilded Age, but it's probably a little bit later than the Gilded Age. Eisenhower. Okay, I won't go there. And as identified in the New York Times article recently, I think the best line that they had in there was that in March, 4,000 delays had been caused in the system by the old signaling system. It's hard to fix. Nobody fixes it anymore. It's very hard to find out where the fixes are. It is a very hard system to keep going. We are the only entity in the world right now who builds this type of stuff because we have to build it. And the number of defects means we can't keep up with the defects that are happening. We have to build a new system. But we just don't want to build a new system. We want it to be better. And as one of the speakers already recognized the benefits that are coming with the new system, I think everybody remembers on the 7 line, the reliability was not the best. It's gone up substantially since we've turned on CBDC, and I think everybody is feeling that difference. Recently, we've got to substantial completion on the E line, the QBL as we call it, and we're finding faster times, reducing travel times by 10%, particularly in the rush hour, which I think everybody, again, hopefully is feeling. More to come on that as we expand it. But the CBDC is making major differences in the on-time performance of our system. We have a lot more to do. We have come to this board many times over the years with all sorts of difficulties expressed about the QBL project. We put that in service in 2022. It was only in 2025, this year, that we declared substantial completion on that project. It took us 3 years to get that project from starting in service to being acceptable in service. 3 years. We've done the same in 2024. We started the Culver line. We put it in service in 2024. It got to its required performance targets in 2025, 1 year. It took us only 1 year to get it to the absolute point of where we needed to be in terms of its performance. Both of those systems we target for 2026 to improve their performance even further so that the incidents on the line go down again and again. I asked myself, why did it take us so long to get QBL into service over those 3 years? I'm going to say it's pre-C&D when that was awarded, okay? We had lowest price bidding for that project. Technology was the last thing considered by the bidders in that project. It was dominated by the installer of the works, not by the technology provider in the works. In all of our projects now, the technology is coming first. We should never have to fight for 3 years to get a system to be stable. In fact, I would go further. For us to make the changes that we have to make in the years ahead, 1 year to get to a stabilized system is not good. In the projects that we are putting together right now, you'll hear about QBL East, you'll hear about 8th Avenue. We are delaying those projects until we get to the point that we are satisfied that they will work as performed on day one. That is an extremely high standard. That is an extremely high standard, but that nothing will do at this stage. We've talked before about a shift away from the old relay technology, the mechanical relays on the left here, to the more CBDC computer-based, or I'm falling into myself, computer-controlled but communications-based system. I think in the past, maybe people haven't quite understood. It's not that all of our projects to date have shifted from the old mechanical to the new computer. All of the projects we've done so far have included both. We've built 2 systems as part of every project to date. And the reason why we did that is because we didn't trust CBTC. When our predecessors put together this program, they were not sure that the complexity of New York system could be handled by CBTC. It's taken those 3 years that we spent on QBL West to push the technology forward to demonstrate that CBTC can work. And we made it work as an interoperable system. So any supplier can supply any piece of equipment, and it all works interoperably. Going forward, we need the confidence and the precision in the operations of CBDC so that we can eliminate one of those two systems in our next projects. Going forward on Crosstown, which is underway right now, we are only building one signaling system. That is a major step that I'm not quite sure people really have understood is what we're doing here on CBDC. So when we say we're doing CBDC, we've been doing two systems. For the first time on Crosstown, we are doing one system. So the ability to cut down to do one system, the ability to have all the cards ready, is dramatically increasing our ability to produce projects. As Jamie's already mentioned, we're expecting a fourfold increase in this decade of doing all these projects because we know what we've done, we've solved the problems. And in fact, working with Mitsubishi, who is our third supplier along with Siemens and now Hitachi, we have a very competitive market. In our current procurement for the Fulton project, which Greg will outline a little later on today, is one of the largest we've ever done, we are getting 3 bidders for the first time on these major projects. And it is highly competitive. But it's not only competitive monetarily, it's competitive in terms of system cleverness. And it is delivering us major savings in cost. You can see on the Crosstown project, which was the first one that we've been doing with only one signaling system, the costs of the project are dramatically decreased. So I want to stand.
Is that in part attributable to the fact that this is the first one where you weren't building
Correct.
a new legacy system?
Correct.
Like literally
That's
building a new version of the
Correct.
1930 system?
Correct.
So that's part of the cost
That's a major
reduction,
part
right?
of our reduction in what's needed here. So look, I stand back and I know that when Gregor gets to speaking, he's going to tell you about some delays in our projects. But those are strategic delays and deliberate decisions that we want to make to deliver for the program and not just for the project. It's not good enough for us to say we can get this project on time. We have a whole program of work to build over this decade in the nest that's been financed now, hopefully, and more to come. We want to deliver the whole program, not just the project. We are seeing an industry capability problem. That's their first on that list. We are seeing mistakes being made by the industry. We're seeing that they've lost the skills to actually design this old legacy system. You'll see on the 8th Avenue project and on the QBL East project, they're delayed because the industry no longer has the capacity to design the relay system. So we're working with them hand and tooth, hand and nail, whatever, to train their people to get to the finish line in these projects. Transitioning to the one only CBTC, we are no longer accepting that it is okay to put into service anything but perfection. That is delaying the start of our project. We could tell you tomorrow that we put some things in service. We will not do that. By going to one system, it has to work. And we have set that standard for ourselves. Final up there. Again, we're building for a program. The communication system that we started off with, telling you how important it was to CBTC, it has to work. When we started off Crosstown, we realized nobody is developing the communication system that we had in Crosstown at the beginning. Siemens, who designed it and provided it, no longer even invests in it. There's no updates to the software. There's no updates to the hardware. So we made the decision at the beginning of Crosstown to change the communication system to enable it to be for the future program and not the project. The fact that we made that decision to build the program properly is going to make that project slightly delayed, as James already mentioned. It was the right decision. It was the good decision. It's a dead technology. What we've built into the system now is a new 5G system. It's got IP internet control. It's got cybersecurity features. It allows us to swap diagnostic information. It is a much, much better system. I'm sure Greg will tell you more about the details, but I hope that gives you a flavor of some of the strategic thinking that we've been putting on so far.
Good afternoon. Yeah, good afternoon. I am Grégoire Sulmont. I am the business unit lead for Signal and Train Control. The business unit has a portfolio of 29 projects, including 12 projects in construction and 2 major CBTC projects in procurement. Since we last presented last year, the business unit has seen several significant accomplishments. As Mark mentioned earlier, we have seen major improvement in the performance of the QBL West line. We also proved that our interoperable standard works. And we declared in March substantial completion on the final contract of those projects. The final portion of the Culver project were placed in service last fall. Combined with QBL West, the F line have now seen end-to-end trip times reduced by 5 minutes, a major improvement for riders. Beyond these individual projects, we have made progress on program-wide initiatives. We have equipped with CBTC the newest rolling stock, the R179s and the R211s. It means that soon the entire B division fleet will be CBTC ready. Behind the scene, we have also upgraded our operation control center with a state-of-the-art large screen display associated with the ATS train supervision system of the B division. It is another key step forward toward a centralized and more efficient operation for the B division. Now, let's go into the status of the individual projects. First, the 8th Avenue project. This project will deliver CBTC on the A, C, and E trains in Manhattan. The good news is that the physical construction is essentially complete. Board members may remember that in previous years, the project was impacted by the delays of the delivery of the new R211 trains. There too, we have good news. As you heard last month, the R211 project is back on pace. We were also able to resolve some contractor signaling system design issue. However, earlier this year, as we prepare to enter the testing and commissioning phase of the project, a contractor quality issue reared its head. The axle counter sensors, the little white box installed on the side of the rail to keep track where the trains are, were not installed properly. This meant that they were rubbing against the wheels of the train and braking. We diagnosed this quickly on the first. So you are missing the piece. We diagnosed this quickly, and the contractor has corrected the error, but this set us back. I want to note that this did not impact our customer, as we were able to correct these issues using under flagging. We are now ready to start the testing and commissioning starting in September of this year. As Mark noted earlier, we are not going to rush that process. We will only place in service when we are confident that every part of the system is ready to go. We anticipate that being complete around the start of 2027. The QBL East project will extend the reach of CBTC further into Eastern Queens on the E and F line. This one is special because it is the first project for our third supplier, Mitsubishi. In terms of building out the CBTC system, they have performed really well. We are thrilled to have them on board and competing with Siemens and Hitachi for other projects going forward. The construction work itself is proceeding roughly on schedule. However, the challenge with QBL East is the design of the legacy signaling system. QBL East is the last project to include rebuilding a legacy system underneath CBTC. And it is proving that we were right to move to CBTC-centric. There is simply not enough signal engineers for the whole system left. We are working with the contractors to train up and qualify additional engineers to get the project across the finish line and into testing and commissioning. And we were not sitting and waiting though. We are mitigating the delay by switching around our testing and commissioning schedule to start as soon as any section of work is completed. We will start this process the fourth quarter of this year with a full in-service projected for Q2 2027. Let's move to Crosstown. This has been a more visible project than most signal jobs usually are. The good news is that the things that customer sees are proceeding according to schedule. We had a very successful long-term outage last summer. We thank our customer for putting up with it, as well as for the night and weekend work that has been necessary to continue the job since. The physical construction will be completed early next year. However, Mark spoke to it earlier. We face challenges with the related project to upgrade the CBTC radio on the trains. That will delay our ability to enter the testing and commissioning phase of this project and thus reach full in-service. During the Crosstown procurement, we realized we needed to upgrade the CBTC radio, the system that allows the train to communicate with the wayside equipment and the control system. The whole system development started in the 1990s. And we were seeing on QBL West, its performance was impacted by many problems with shrinking capacity from the supplier to fix them. We made the decision to upgrade it once for all in connection with the Crosstown job, rather than install the soon-to-be obsolete equipment only to replace it a few years later. The Carborne radio upgrade, however, has not progressed as quickly as Crosstown has. The procurement and design, as well as working through some federal regulatory concern, has taken longer than expected. Work is now fully underway. One contract for R211 is actually for board approval this week. But the radios on the R211 and the R160 fleets are not going to be ready for in-service until respectively 2026 and end of 2027. This will not impact our customers. There will be no additional outage as a result of this. But it means that we won't be able to go in service until enough trains are equipped. We are reworking the Crosstown schedule to mitigate this. It will be faster to equip the relatively small number of trains on the than F trains. So we are prioritizing the northern section of the project where only G trains runs. As a side benefit, G customers will see their fleet fully upgraded to R211s. This will allow us to start testing and commissioning on the north in late 2026, with the in-service anticipated by the end of 2027. For the southern section, where the F and G share tracks, we anticipate it following about a year later. On the program-wide level, we are tackling several key priorities to keep us ahead of the curve going forward. We are moving to outfit our work trains with CBTC. In addition to improving operational flexibility, it will allow us to cut back on wayside equipment even further. This is the next step for CBTC-centric. We are also implementing system improvement to further reduce the number of incidents. We make the system itself smarter to automatically detect and resolve service issues as they arise. Then we are also taking advantage of ATS and CBTC to demonstrate automatic regulation on the train flow. We also plan, while we are doing so, to save energy. And finally, we are planning for the next generation of technology. Sensor-based technology will allow us to cut down even further the amount of equipment on the truck, of the train, and on the track. Starting later this year, we will undertake 2 demonstration projects with promising technologies that emerge from our ultra-wideband exploration. And we have key projects at the procurement stage that will benefit from the improvement we have talked about today. Thanks to the funding from congestion pricing and the fully funded 25-29 capital plan, the Fulton and Liberty lines on the A and C in Brooklyn and Queens are in procurement. This will be the single largest signal project in MTA history, and track replacement project too. We are also finishing up the procurement for 6th Avenue and 63rd Street Tunnel, B, D, F, and M trains in Manhattan. We are planning to award first the CBTC contract and then the installation contract. This will allow us to bundle more non-train control state-of-good repair work while keeping a direct control over the CBTC technology. I turn it now to Jessica Mathieu.
Let's give the board a chance to ask questions. Andrew.
Thank you. Much earlier, you mentioned that thanks to CBTC, you've been able to save an average of 5 minutes on the F line.
Yeah.
But if you have CBTC on Queens Boulevard West and on Culver, but you don't have it on 6th Avenue yet, how is that possible? Wouldn't the trains that got sped up be then slowed down when they got to 6th Avenue?
So that I agree that this is a problem. You need, I mean, first of all, CBTC allows the train to go faster because we eliminate the signaling system, the conventional signaling system. So we have better trains today. So thanks to CBTC, we can go faster. But all the train benefit for the time saved on the QBL corridor and on the Culver corridor.
Gets lost on 6th Avenue.
I mean, it stays the same as before.
No, Andrew, I think the right answer is that time wasted that would otherwise have been wasted because the signaling system at the both those outer segments, as you're talking about, both Queens Boulevard and Culver, have now been captured. So we're no longer losing time on those. You're right that fixing the choke point at the center of the system in Manhattan is essential to get the maximum benefit, but we have already captured significant benefits on the outlying segments in the boroughs. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's why you see 6th Avenue on the list to get done next.
Yep.
Sammy.
I'm going to continue on my campaign that stated good repair is sexy. So I very much appreciate the complexity of all this. The fact that we're running 2 redundant systems until one is absolutely perfect, I think, is the right way to go. With something as critical as this, I have a question about moving over to the. You did make mention of the, cybersecurity. One of the benefits of having this old manual system. And anyone who, anyone listening to this has ever had, went from a phone that you took for granted that you could just answer and always work because it was hardwired to, a dying, there's a different level of vulnerability even if there's benefits. What insulates the system? What redundancies are built into the system in the CBTC that gives you the same level of reliability even if it doesn't have the same performance as the legacy system?
I mean. First of all, the legacy system was only very partially redundant. I mean, it's the perception of reliability of the legacy system is because the pattern of failures are different. You were not losing everything at once.
Yeah.
Today, the CBTC system each and every equipment is redundant. So you have, thanks to the modern technology, each and every computer is redundant. Each and every radio equipment is redundant. We are using different frequency. The network is, the data communication network are laid out in a way that if we lose the connection on one side, it goes on the other side. So in terms of availability, we are, the technology allows us to be extremely available. Our enemy is the software. The software bug, we need to get rid of the software bug. Once we pass this point, we have excellent availability numbers.
I would go. We don't have to do it now. I would love to understand more about that specific point. But in terms of the software book, so you mentioned, we've taken a different approach from, and that you're separating, if I heard it correctly, separating the hardware from the software, so we're not subject to discontinued service and support. You mentioned Siemens specifically.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that look like? Is that an entirely different software, provider? Is that something that we're working on? How does that work, and how's that supported? The software side.
I mean, so we have. You want to answer, or you? Yeah.
Look, we with the three suppliers that we have, they each can write their own proprietary software.
Right.
Okay, so what we have is a common specification for all of those softwares. So it's called the I2S. So they all comply with that specification, and the result of that is that they can all talk to each other.
Got it, but they're still running on their own proprietary software, but they all
Correct.
on
Now,
the same communication protocol.
Now, what's going with that is an enhancement that we're working on and a growth to what I think we would commonly call our IT department, which is transforming into an OT department. So all of this integration of all of the security, all of the integration of the software is becoming our own expertise that we're building in the years ahead. And Jamie and others are working in a team to give us an acceleration to how we manage all of that interface with OT over the next couple of years as we build the program. So there's a growth in that area as we're going through at the present time, but it's all based on the I2S common specification.
And just an important point that sometimes get lost, the rest of the world, in effect, the first CBTC provider, contractor, usually got the whole system.
Yeah.
We insisted, and it took some time to bear out, and it was only on QBL West that it really was tested out, that we have a common protocol, platform, in effect, developed so that multiple contractors, multiple manufacturers, providers could compete, that we could get the benefit of competition. And it was slow to get there, but now we've got there, because you heard it again and again.
Yeah.
We have the three different suppliers.
Right, so you're not beholden. I mean, it's the
we're
same.
not beholden to
it's
one.
the same conversation we
Because
had
I
about
think
rolling
in
stock,
London
yeah.
they basically did the whole system using. I'm looking at Nabil. They did the whole system basically using one contractor, because they in effect had the leg up because of the intellectual property in the system.
Right.
That you were dependent on that protocol and that platform. But we pulled it off. It took some time, but we're in a positive position because of that.
And one more point on this. I just want to point out that this conversation, there's one specific point we chat about it that demonstrates why we need to continue to support our capital programs, because our system outlived the career span of the engineers that were equipped to actually service it. So it was so old that there's no one. We have to train engineers that hadn't even learned about this in their elementary studies at college to be able to support this, which I find a really compelling case to make sure we continue to stay ahead of it now that we're starting to catch up.
Just by way of summary, I just want to pick up on these last couple of points, because I think what you're hearing is, you think about the challenge that we're taking on resignaling this subway system. We're moving 4 million people a day, 24/7. It's a 100-year-old system. No one else is trying to do this. No one else has to do it. Sometimes people say, oh, London, how come London? How come Paris? It's not comparable. They don't have, a lot of their systems were built out post-World War II. They are shutting down whole lines to do this work. They don't have interlining. They're not trying to move trains onto different lines. So they are able to go with a single supplier, a single software vendor. And no one is maintaining service this way. So I just want to communicate to the board, it's hard to summarize the excruciating decisions that we are making on behalf of our riders every day. We've described them here. Moving to a new radio system so that we actually have a radio that will work, that will be able to be maintained. We're not staring down the obsolescence of technology every day. Not replacing the conventional signal system, which is the thing that's really been slowing us down. And as you say, not supported, obsolete, but really difficult decision for us to make. And part of the reason we only make these decisions when we know that it means that we can reliably and safely move passengers throughout the system, but also sometimes we're engaging in trade-offs where we say, okay, we can make improvements to the G line, we can make all of these improvements to Crosstown, but because of these difficult decisions we're making, it's going to be a little extra time before we can fully put the system into service. And we're making those decisions every day, really supported by an incredibly talented, as you can see, internationally experienced, set of senior officials that we're so lucky that they've come to work and been attracted to work at the MTA by the sort of agency that we've set up here. But it's only because we have that we're able to get this done.
It's only because of Gregoire being here. We call this approach CBTC, centrique. Okay. Can we move on to
yes.
Jessica's presentation?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
Thanks.
Great. I'll now give a brief overview of how we're planning for CBTC projects for the 25 to 29 capital plan and beyond. As a reminder, we have over 200 signal miles completed or underway. As Gregoire mentioned, we are starting design on the Fulton and Liberty lines, and we'll soon have 6th Avenue underway as well. And in the 25 to 29 plan, we'll be modernizing more than 75 signal miles, advancing the Rockaway and Liberty line serving the A and Shuttle, the Nassau line serving the J and Z, and the Broadway and Astoria line serving the NQ, R, and W. Together, this totals 58% of the lettered subway lines, or the B division. And as a reminder, the lettered subway lines are functionally a separate system from the numbered lines, or the A division, because of their different tunnel designs and train widths. In addition to this, we'll be completing a CBTC renewal project on the Canarsie line. When selecting future CBTC corridors, we consider several key parameters, including signal age and state of good repair, anticipated reliability improvements and bottlenecks addressed, as well as, of course, rider benefits. As an example, the Broadway line was selected for this capital plan because it was a priority based on all of these criteria. Its signals are from the 1960s, it modernizes many bottlenecks, including DeKalb Avenue, and it brings CBTC to 1.2 million daily riders. In addition, there are, of course, constraints that we have to work within. Principally, this means determining how much and where exactly concurrent signal projects can be undertaken. But this also importantly means that we need to align the schedules of these projects with the delivery schedules of CBTC-equipped cars. With the purchases in the 25 to 29 plan, our entire fleet for the B division will be ready for CBTC. And as an example, we're running many of our newest rail cars, the R211s, on the A line as the 8th Avenue CBTC project wraps up and the Fulton project gets underway. This means that we can modernize the signals on the Liberty and Rockaway lines as well because the cars are already there. This also gets us to completing the end-to-end CBTC on the A train, which is when riders fully see the benefits, as board member Albert, you mentioned. As I outlined, our focus in the last two capital plans has been on the lettered lines in the B division, but that brings me to what's next, the A division, which offers us a unique opportunity to accelerate our implementation of CBTC to benefit 2.1 million daily riders served by the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 lines. We aren't waiting until the next capital plan to start thinking about this next phase of work, though. There are several ways we're preparing to modernize the next corridors right now. First, we have several large car procurements in the 25 to 29 plan, which will enable CBTC. This includes 1,140 new cars for the A division and 355 cars for the B division. We're also addressing a major bottleneck on these lines at Nostrand Junction in advance of signal modernization to make sure we're maximizing benefits to riders. And we're replacing the automatic train supervision or ATS system for the A division, similar to what was completed for the B division. We'll also have a range of initiatives underway to further set the next set of projects up for success and lay the groundwork for the A division, like forecasting out our construction schedules for the next 10 years. This will allow us to pick up the pace of delivering modern signals to riders while avoiding onerous service impacts that people experience during construction of these projects. And those are our planning updates.
We're going to hear from the IEC, which has got a lot of expertise in this area, and then any other questions or comments. IEC.
Good afternoon, Chairman and the members of the board. I'm providing the IEC's review of the Signals and Train Control Business Unit. Our summary report can be found on page 18 of your committee book. We begin with the Communications-Based Train Control CBTC report, which highlights IEC's observations, analysis, and recommendations on the program. As a reminder to the board, the CBTC program has two types of technologies. Legacy CBTC, which has 3 active projects, Culver, 8th Avenue, QBL East, and QBL West, which recently achieved substantial completion. The CBTC-centric program also has 3 projects, Crosstown, Fulton Liberty, and 6th Avenue. This newer generation technology uses an integrated and centralized unit to control multiple rail interlockings and provide CBTC over a large section of track using less wayside and room equipment. Since our last report in March 2024, CBTC program has expanded its territory and improved operational stability, meaning performing at a higher level of system availability with notable achievements. The QBL West line achieved substantial completion in March 2025. CBTC operation was expanded to the Culver line. Both QBL West and the Culver lines are in CBTC service, have improved their operational stability, and are providing a better customer experience. On QBL East, design has progressed and testing and verification were successfully completed on schedule. On Crosstown, the design for CBTC-centric system has progressed, and the project team met the FCC's deadline to demonstrate the use of 5G. Since March 2024, the program has also encountered some challenges. The IEC concurs with C&D's approach to prioritizing quality and reliability, availability, and maintainability, or RAM, over schedule. Notable challenges include axle counter issues, including a delay in finalizing the manual reset process, and replacing and repositioning damaged sensors have delayed the commissioning of interlockings on the 8th Avenue project. QBL East is delayed by 20 months due to delay in auxiliary wayside system design and sewage issues at 169th Street. Although the Culver line achieved beneficial use in September 2024, substantial completion was delayed due to outstanding deliverables and critical punch list items for auxiliary wayside system, but is expected in September. The QBL East and Crosstown projects are forecast to require additional funding. The Crosstown project encountered delays in finalizing agreements with third-party CBTC suppliers. This delayed the critical path activity of installing 5G equipment on the car fleet. In addition, the supplier is behind schedule in completing the signal block design and associated control tables. As a result of these issues, the IEC forecasts a 24-month delay to the Crosstown CBTC in-service and substantial completion dates. The IEC forecast of completion in 2029 is based on third-party commitments to complete the 5G retrofit of the fleet. If these commitments are not met, the schedule could be impacted further. C&D is working with the contractor to rebaseline the schedule, mitigate risks, and minimize delays. It should be noted that full passenger benefit from CBTC for Crosstown, QBL East, and 8th Avenue will not be achieved until the entire system is placed into service. The IEC notes that C&D has been applying lessons learned to the upcoming Fulton Liberty project, which is in the procurement phase. The following measures were discussed with IEC and adopted by C&D to ensure stable operation for CBT-centric installation: accelerating C&D's equipping of work trains with CBTC to minimize manual train operation, and ensuring contractors meet RAM-driven benchmarks during testing and commissioning before placing the system into customer service. The IEC analyzed the challenges that caused prior CBTC delays and our programmatic recommendations related to implementation of new technologies, non-contractual interdependencies, and development of guidelines for CBTC-centric design, which are expanded on in the committee book. Next, we will report on Sandy repairs at Culver Yard. This federally funded track and signals project replaces signal equipment damaged by Superstorm Sandy. The project is 53% complete. The project team is working closely with the delivery service office and the yard master to recover a minor delay. The IEC recognizes opportunities to mitigate ongoing track access risks to complete the project on budget and on schedule in 2026. Mr. Chairman, this concludes the IEC's comments on the signals and train control.
About as much detail as these kinds of committee meetings will produce. Any questions or comments? I just one thing that I will share with the board, which is when I was digging into, I got a preview of this, and when I was digging in, one of the issues with the 4G and the 5G, among others, was the uncertainty about whether we could hold on to the bandwidth. I mean, there are external factors in addition to those that you've been briefed on today, which create additional complexity in the sort of from a technology standpoint, because the bandwidth, of course, is controlled by the FCC, and there's a lot of stuff going on. Another longer discussion, but there was some uncertainty about whether the bandwidth that the CBTC system was dependent on would still be available, and that's why, among other reasons, they delayed making the decision. That was a significant piece of information from my standpoint. Share it for what it's worth. Anything else anybody wants to talk about? Then we're going to do some actual actions today. Mr. Iceland will brief us on procurements.
Thank you, Chair. This month I'm presenting 3 procurement actions totaling $483 million. The first item is in the amount of $435 million. It's a new award to a joint venture aptly named VNB Construction Company. It's a publicly advertised and competitively solicited contract for design build services to rehabilitate elevated roadways and ramps on the Brooklyn side of the Verrazano Narrows Bridge. Notably, this project will include the elimination of the left lane exits from the ramps onto the Bell Parkway, which has been a pretty big issue for us in the past. The next item is for the award of a modification to a contract with the Gramercy PJS joint venture. It's a joint venture between Gramercy Group and Paul J. Scariano. It's in the amount of $1.1 million, and that's to add the demolition of a long decommissioned Parkchester Avenue signal tower. And the last item, which was discussed earlier, is the ratification of a mod to a contract with Hitachi Rail in the amount of $47 million to furnish and support the installation of the 5G data communication system equipment on the R211 units. And I just think it's worth pointing out here that that to get this contractor moving early, we received authorization from the president of C&D back in '24 to authorize Hitachi to start the development of those 5G units. and keep on the material records while we negotiated and developed the entire modification. So he's been working. So these items are described in detail in the staff summaries contained within your committee books, and I hereby submit them for your consideration and vote.
Mr. Albert, followed by Mr. Herbst.
Yeah, on the Gramercy one, under the discussion, it has one of the station names incorrect. It should be Cypress Hills, not Cypress Hill.
I'll get that. I'll fix that.
Herbst.
Yes, I just have a process question, if you can help. The first bid item requires a 2/3 vote, and the other's a majority vote. And the reason is because it's design build?
Yes, because it's an well, it's not because it's design build, it's because it's an RFP versus,
Just so I understand. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And both of these, all these contracts have negotiations. That's part of it. It's not a low bid, and you got to accept them. With the design build one particularly, the first one, I see that there were negotiations that took place and information was missing.
so, yeah,
Can you
so
ex-
on our, well, just to be clear, so we also do bid projects which don't come to the board, but on the RFPs, any RFP is done by approval of the board only. That includes all of our design build projects, and those are all best value procurements. So we evaluate both technical ability, quality, and price, and we compare them all, look at other factors as well. That was the case here. One of the things we require on our contracts is when a contractor proposes, that he proposes on the contract as written. This contractor put assumptions in his contract that were different than the contract terms. We felt that rather than disqualify and tell him it was non-responsive, which is available to us, but I thought for the benefit of the procurement process and for the competition, we would allow him an opportunity to correct that, to give us a price without any of his assumptions that were not consistent with our contract. He did that. He was no longer the low bid, and we negotiated with both of them and came to a best.
Well, how do you
best
negotiate
value.
with the other parties? Is like, okay, now they've corrected the bid, now the other bid, can you beat this price? Is that how it worked? Or,
No, we don't disclose to each party what their actual prices are. We go through the process is we talk to them about where we think that their prices are different from what we think that they should be in terms of our estimate. We look at places where we see major discrepancies. There's a bunch of factors that we look at. But no, we don't
it's
disclose.
just it's across the board with both, whoever submits the bids?
Yes, you often negotiate differently with both parties because they have different proposals. It's one-on-one and it's confidential, but we make a decision on who is competitive and who we're going to negotiate with, and then we negotiate with those parties.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? All right, well, we're going to, I'm going to call the question on the procurements that Mr. Iceland has described. May I have a motion? Thank you, Haida. Second, Mr.
No,
Herbst.
okay.
You want to add?
I would like to abstain on the second bid, the second project.
Okay. But with that noted for the record, Mr. Herbst's abstention on the second item. All in favor? I'm just making sure we have a quorum. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 voting members. That is a quorum. Okay, but one more time. Hey, so all in favor, with the exception of the second item. Melva, are you voting? Because you're present. You okay, just voting yes. Any opposition or abstention? Okay, the items are carried and we'll go forward to the board. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Thank you for sustaining. Thank you. I have motion and a second. We are in adjournment. Thanks.